Mental health is a fundamental aspect of our well-being, shaping how we navigate life's challenges, build relationships, and contribute to our communities. In Ghana, this vital aspect of human experience is both resilient and a battleground against stigma and misunderstanding. In recent years, there's been a growing recognition of the importance of addressing mental health issues and promoting awareness across the country. However, the journey to safeguarding the mental well-being of Ghanaians is far from over. My name is Emmanuel Dzivenu, and in this documentary, I explore Ghana's mental health landscape to uncover the challenges people with lived experiences face in accessing care and support. The cry of a newborn baby brings immense joy. For mothers, it is a dream come true and the beginning of motherhood. Amidst the joy and excitement, there can be unexpected challenges. For some mothers, the days after delivery bring not only physical changes, but also emotional struggles that can be difficult to navigate.
I had heard about pregnancy, motherhood and all that stuff. You read about some of the things, but I don't think that anything adequately prepares you for what the journey will be like afterwards.
Nuamah is a mother of 3. In 2017, she welcomed her first child. Little did she know that the arrival of her bundle of joy would also sink her into the depths of what health professionals call postpartum depression.
That amount of pain that I was in, I think it sent me over the edge. I had the pain of the latch, and then also I guess like the emotional pain of not being able to breastfeed immediately. Then also the fact that I had the stitch.
The happiness of having a baby turns out to be a mirage for some mothers who drown in depression. Somehow, these mothers begin to feel a certain weird sense of inadequacy and a feeling that they are failing as mothers.
I was never one of those mothers that once I popped the baby, I smiled into my baby's face and then held him and rocked him. No, I was just happy to be done with that experience. The nurses came for him and I was so relieved. So I never really bonded with him the first few, maybe even weeks.
When a woman is pregnant, the placenta is what connects the baby to the mother. The placenta produces high levels of some hormone we call estrogen and progesterone. And these ones trigger the brain to produce some feel-good chemicals. One of them is called dopamine, another one is called serotonin. So these help the woman to cope with the stress of pregnancy. Okay, feel good, feel good, feel good. So when she's delivered and the placenta separates and comes out, the level of estrogen and progesterone that trigger the feel-good things would drop. So the feel-good things have dropped. At the same time, she has a new baby and the stress of taking care of the new baby goes up. So this is what explains it. But different people have different vulnerabilities.
Postpartum depression is a reality for many women, affecting roughly 4 in every 10 mothers. It is a complex and often misunderstood condition that can manifest in a variety of ways, from overwhelming sadness and anxiety to feelings of inadequacy and guilt.
Very dark thoughts, very, very dark thoughts. Like you start to, first of all, you at the beginning, you don't like your baby. You don't like your baby. You don't even want to be a mother. It's like, is this thing for me? And also, is this the thing that is so hyped? This wasn't really living up to my expectations.
The risk factors of mental illness can vary from hormonal changes to lack of support and a history of mental health issues.
People generally going through a lot of psychosocial stresses When we talk about psychosocial stresses, I mean, finances is a psychosocial stressor. Marital problems, if you are married, is a psychosocial. Even work, your concerns about work. Am I going to lose my job? How much maternity leave am I entitled to? Will I be replaced if I go? So all these are psychosocial stresses that can trigger it.
Dealing with postpartum depression involves a combination of self-care strategies, seeking professional help, building a support network, and making lifestyle adjustments. Mothers seeking help should see it as a sign of strength and not weakness. Postpartum mental depression is treatable, and with the right support and resources, affected mothers can enjoy a fulfilling motherhood journey.
There's treatments for women who have any postpartum mental illness at all, and by extension, anybody with a mental illness. So the first thing is identifying that this person has a problem.
At the beginning, when I was working out, it was just, I had a little trampoline in the house, and it was just simple things like just jumping on the trampoline. It did me a lot of good because there was something about my heart pumping and things like that I felt rejuvenated, and like I felt like I had the best of energy, and I felt like I was becoming myself again.
Just like any mental illness, stigma surrounding postpartum depression is prevalent in Ghanaian society, making it difficult for mothers to openly discuss their feelings or seek professional help.
In Ghana, there isn't a lot of information and a lot of knowledge when it comes to postpartum depression. People just say, oh, you know, it's normal. What you were going through, we all went through it.
There's a lot of stigma in the community. The patients we spoke to who have lived experiences, they say friends abandoned them. My husband's mother told the son not to even have intimacy with me because I was mad and I was going to get to transfer it to him. Another mother-in-law said to the son that we will not allow this your wife to bring madness into our family. We don't want madness. We won't allow her to bring it. That is stigma right from the home and the community.
So if it's the person is still on admission, the midwife sees it, the doctor sees it, they refer to a psychiatrist. If it's a family member, we bring the person to see a psychiatrist. We assess the person and then we intervene. There are medications, there are psychological interventions, and other procedures for them so that we shorten the illness. As I've said, it has devastating effects on the baby, so the aim is to shorten it as much as possible. And in extreme cases, I've said that it can lead to self-harm on the mother's side and even death of the baby, called infanticide. So you can imagine that potentially it's quite dangerous.
There is a general lack of awareness and appreciation of postpartum mental health issues. Ghana's healthcare system often lacks sufficient resources, including mental health professionals, for postpartum depression screening and treatment.
About half of healthcare professionals in the country said they are not familiar with maternal mental health issues. And that is a big gap. Yes. Okay, so there's a gap in our own knowledge, skills, and ability as providers. And the providers have called for integration of maternal mental health. One, right from the point of training, at the point of training midwives, medical students, and the postgraduates, that we should hammer more on these things. Then they have the skills and the knowledge.
As a mother, if you know that you are supposed to exclusively breastfeed for 6 months, that's what the public health nurses tell us all the time. And then, yet you have to go back to work after 3 months. There's going to be so much pressure on you to make sure that the breast milk is flowing, you bond with your baby, you put everything in place before you go back to work. And mind you, at that time, still, your hormones have not returned to normal. You physically, mentally, emotionally, you are not ready for work. You can't even be productive at work. And then also, one of the things that people don't talk about is mom guilt. So you're at work and you're feeling so guilty leaving the 3-month-old is barely, it's still a newborn at home under the care of who? If you don't have the right assistance, then who is it? So I believe that extending maternity leave, I feel that will play a role, a major role in curbing some of these mental health challenges that we face.
Meet Ese and I, Abradra, a mental health advocate and a content creator. Her journey to this point has been anything but daunting.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Mental Health Quarters. Today we'll be learning about 5 things I love about being a mental health advocate.
Ese and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder 9 years ago while a student at the university. The diagnosis felt like a death sentence, shattering her plans and leaving her feeling isolated.
I was diagnosed at the age of 21, and at the time I had little knowledge about mental health. So when I was diagnosed, to me it sounded like a death sentence, and I felt like all my plans for life have ended.
Ese and I's initial years were marked by denial and resistance to treatment, fueled by misconceptions about faith and professional help.
So the first year I was diagnosed, I was in denial. I did not want to accept what the psychiatrist and psychologist told me. I did not want to accept because I thought accepting means that I don't have faith in God, don't believe in God that He can heal me. And the Bible also says a lot of things about good health and healing and all of that. So I thought if I take the medication or I go for review appointments and things like that, it means that I have given up. After that 1 year of being in denial and realizing that my symptoms were not going away, things were getting worse, I came home that long vacation and I listened to a podcast by Bishop Daki. It was Wisdom 14. He was talking about how there's nothing wrong with seeking professional help. So after hearing that, I realized, okay, then God has nothing against seeking professional help and taking medication to help with your mental health. So I said I was going to try it.
Her journey of living with bipolar disorder has been fraught with challenges, including episodes that strained relationships and jeopardized her career.
With the mania, when it comes like that, one of the things that I do is I talk a lot. Sometimes what I'm talking about, it doesn't add up. And because I am having racing thoughts, I'm having so many ideas coming to my something will say, why don't you start a business? Why don't you name it this? Why don't you get investors? Sometimes these thoughts, they are not things you can execute, but when you are having them, they seem like things you can execute right now. I do become extravagant. I go shopping. Some of the things that I'm buying, I don't need them, or I'll buy 2 of things I don't need. And sometimes when I buy the things a lot like that, I will give them out to people. And my money too that I have, I will spend everything, whether it's in my mobile money accounts, bank accounts. I just wipe everything. I'll just spend all the money. And sometimes I become very rude, obnoxious. I just sometimes can say the most unpleasant things because my inhibitions are lowered. And sometimes you can even tell from my dressing and my makeup that I am manic, because I would dress differently from the way I usually dress. Sometimes I would dress very seductively.
On top of my head, I can think about like 13 million people in Ghana who have this condition. I mean, that's huge. So we always say that if you count 5 people, generally, maybe 1 out of the 5 who have some form of morbidity that they are dealing with in the mental health space. So that's huge. But for the specific conditions, we have prevalence. So for example, for schizophrenia, we know that 1%. So if you have like 100 people, and you count 1 up to 100, at least one of them will have the condition. Bipolar is like 1.2, depression is like 2%. So for each of them, we have ranges of prevalence for them. So I think the most important thing for people to realize is that it's quite common. I mean, if you are looking at 1 out of 5 people having some form of mental health condition, not necessarily a diagnosis, but some kind of morbidity or some kind of distress that you're going through.
The impact of stigmatizing persons living with mental disorders can be significant and far-reaching.
The first time I was stigmatized, I was fired from my job. This was my first job after national service. I was teaching at a school, and I was really under a lot of stress. Stress is one of the triggers and stresses when it comes to bipolar disorder. So I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was commuting to work every day. It was also a very toxic and stressful environment to be working in. Twice I dozed off at 2 meetings, and I was embarrassed. I was disgraced and all of that, and I cried. I was hurt. It's because I didn't understand why all the other teachers were going through the same level of stress and pressure, but I was breaking down. Less than 24 hours, she told all the members of management. I was called for a meeting, and I was told that was my last day of work at the school, and I was fired.
The workplace can be a very stressful environment, for a number of issues. And so the authority has decided to engage in mental health in the corporate world. And here the focus is going to be on enlightenment and encouraging people in the corporate world to come out and seek treatment if they feel they have issues with mental disorder.
Ese and I's story is just one part of a larger narrative. Meet John Asogunde, whose battle with substance use disorder led him down a dark and dangerous path. From early exposure to pornography by his cousin to the allure of alcohol and drugs, John gradually drowned into addiction.
We started with pornography. I was just in class 6, also about 12 years of age, when I got introduced to pornography. Then eventually started masturbating. And so this sort of laid the foundation for other habits to seep in.
Substance abuse can develop for various reasons, including genetic predisposition, environmental factors, and trauma, as well as using substance as a coping mechanism for stress and other challenges. It is often a complex interplay of biological, psychological, and social factors.
By the time I got to secondary school, I got introduced to alcohol and cigarettes. And this was just peer pressure. Your friends are doing it and they tell you about it and you're curious, you want to try it. And so I tried it. Alcohol is very bitter, so I didn't even like it. But I liked the effect it gave. You know, it made me feel like I was confident or I could move around swiftly. And so I just kept on drinking every now and then when we go for parties. You know, cigarettes, we're just smoking for fun.
If you have friends you want to identify with, especially those who have low self-esteem and they need other people to validate them, you will definitely do what they do because they are the go-to people, they are loud, they are very friendly, they are the people of the day. So, you know, that kind of lifestyle also kind of influences you to go ahead and use a substance. So that's one of the huge challenges with people who use it. It's usually peer associated.
Then when I got to the university, that's when this escalated because now I had freedom to do whatever I wanted to do. With my own room in the hostel, I could smoke anytime I wanted or drink anytime I wanted. And so in the university at my hostel, most of my friends were then smoking marijuana. And then they'll tell you that marijuana is better than the cigarettes because marijuana is natural. It's God's own given plant. And for a young, impressionable mind like mine back then, I was curious and decided to try it. Before I realized this thing became a daily habit.
We are also collaborating with the Narcotic Commission to see how best we can protect and preserve the mental health of individuals who are addicted to substances.
Addiction to drugs and alcohol can have profound effects on one's mental health. This leads to constrained relationships and financial difficulties, all of which can contribute to increased stress, anxiety, and depression. Substance use disorder can also impair judgment and decision-making abilities, leading to risky behaviors.
I've had several accidents that could have taken my life away, because I was drunk and high, driving around town, and I'll crash my car. Sometimes I'll get out of the accident and I don't even know how it happened.
A classical example is tramadol. It's a medication that is fantastic when it comes to treating pain. But unfortunately, it has some, fallouts. People can actually get hooked onto it. And for people to get hooked onto it, they really have to use really high doses, okay? In the consulting room, I'll prescribe like a 50 mg, but those who have to get hooked onto it will have to do like 250, 300, and it has its telling impact on the whole system.
I was so dazed with the pills I had taken. When we started taking tramadol, it was just one pill, but your tolerance level increases, so when you get to a point, you need to take more pills. And so this day, I think I had taken about 5 pills or so. And I was sitting in the trotro, I'd forgotten about myself, and I was drooling. And so a woman sitting by me in the trotro was just like, a fine gentleman like you, look at the way you have destroyed your life. Your mom is somewhere thinking her son is living right, and you've just destroyed yourself like this. And those words really hit me hard, because I felt so embarrassed for someone like me to just be sitting in a trotro and drooling because I was high on tramadol. Because of the drive and the craving, it's difficult for people to associate these substances with the deleterious effect that it's having on them and to move away from them. So that's why we have to come in our professionals to help them to process the whole thing, do a detox of them, get them into a therapeutic environment where they're able to see the association between the deleterious effect that's having on them and the substance itself. The turning point happened in a very unconventional manner. And a few months later, something really tragic happened that just, pushed me to surrender. So there was this guy that I used to follow on social media. He was living the best life, talking private jets, flashy cars, partying with the biggest celebrities around the world. One day I woke up and then I go on Instagram and I see this guy has jumped from the 10th floor of his penthouse in Miami and killed himself. And that was when the verse hit me. What shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul? This guy I was following, I thought he had it all. He just killed himself like that.
Seeking professional treatment for substance use disorder is highly recommended for individuals struggling with addiction. For some, self-help, support groups, and lifestyle changes may be sufficient to overcome these obsessions.
Just as the spirituality is important, professional help is also very important. For me, thankfully, or let me say, by the grace of God, I didn't have to seek professional help. What it did for me was just my spirituality, my family, my immediate family. They were so loving and caring during that period. And then Christian fellowship. I belong to a Christian fellowship of businessmen where I was able to see young people like me who aspired to the morals and the values I wanted to aspire to. So that's what did it for me.
For treatment, I have been on medications, mood stabilizers and antipsychotic medications. My psychiatrists and psychologists I've had over the years have been very, very good. We have made a very good team, and they make me feel seen, they make me feel heard. I'm grateful to them all the time. I tell them that they are the cheerleaders on my road to recovery.
Many people are not aware that children can suffer from mental disorder. And mental disorder can start at a very early age. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, but mental disorder can kick in from the age of 12 upwards. So it is very important that the Mental Health Authority gets schools on board in order to enlighten those concerned, counselors and so on.
Mental health funding in Ghana has historically faced challenges, including limited resources and attention compared to other areas of healthcare. However, in recent years, there has been increased recognition of the importance of mental health and efforts to improve funding and resources.
The Mental Health Act provides for a mental health fund. The law has been in force for more than 10 years and the fund is yet to be properly set up. That's one issue. The second matter is that mental health currently relies heavily on development partner assistance from WHO and from the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, FCDO. Mental health treatment is supposed to be free, but you may ask yourself, how free is free if the medication is not available? So the Mental Health Authority has been taking serious steps to get mental health covered by national health insurance. In actual fact, it's provided for in the Act, but it's a matter of making that become a reality.
Despite facing discrimination and hardship, Enoquagrain, Ese and I, and John have found strength in advocacy and education, using their platform to challenge stigma and promote understanding of mental health issues.
You can make it, you can thrive, you can be anything that you want to be. Sometimes it sounds impossible. Like when my doctors were telling me, I thought they were telling me because that's what they get paid to do. But I realized it is true. If you take your treatment, your medication seriously, you listen to the advice of your doctors, you do all these things, you will get better. You will see you make strides on your road to recovery. I tell people who are not consistent with their medications and all of that, that you won't see results, because if today you take your medication, tomorrow you don't take, next week you take, today, you won't see results. You have to be consistent. When they tell you take it as prescribed, just do that.
Addiction spares no one, no matter your background, your race, your status, whatever the situation is. Addiction can always find its way into your life. And so it's important for us to be open and honest. There is help, but you must be willing to seek that help.
If depression is not treated, you can become suicidal and also think about death. And that is not what we stand for. We are here to give life. We are here to make sure we sustain life and make life more enjoyable for everybody. So our word to you is to reach out to us when you need it, and it's not as grim as you might be thinking of where you are sitting, but get closer and let's give you a lens through which you view your conditions, and we believe that it will be well with you.
We've done very well with increasing our human resource in mental health, but we still have a long way to go, with particular reference to stigma and funding for mental health. So I would want more work to be done in advocacy, as well as to prepare funding for people who are vulnerable for mental health. Mental health can affect anybody at any level. It does not discriminate. It could be me today and you tomorrow.
Mental health disorder is not a death sentence. With the right support and treatment, it is possible to overcome the darkest of days and find light in the midst of darkness.